Our story today takes us to Luo Land, and here, in one village, we meet a young woman whose name was DICHOL. DICHOL was a very beautiful girl. Many young men would walk up and down outside her father's gate, hoping to catch a glimpse of DICHOL. And if she even gave a tiny smile in their direction, oh, that would be the young man's highlight of the day.
It was not uncommon for men to refrain from washing their hands if DICHOL,
in her generosity, had given one of them the gift of a handshake. And if a young man was seen having a chat with DICHOL, even for a minute, he's standing among his peers, just shot
up like lava during a volcano.
Now, DICHOL was not just beautiful of face, no. Her reputation as a hard-working young woman preceded her, with many mothers telling their daughters, "Nango kinyal beduka ka DICHOL. Why can't you be more like DICHOL?" You see, she always woke up very early and began her tasks for the day. By the time other young women rolled from their beds, her mother's compound was clean and there was already a fire burning in the kitchen. When the other girls carried their pots down to the river to fetch water, DICHOL was already done with that task. In fact, she would be enjoying her second cup of tea, having already hung her washing out to dry.
And she never left the field before the work she had assigned herself for the day was done. DICHOL was charming, and she never picked an argument with anybody. She was held in such a high regard that even young children called her DICHOL Mayom. Yes, DICHOL the most beautiful. All these attributes made her loved and disliked in equal measure. Many of her peers were jealous of her beauty, while the young men would give a hand and a foot just to have DICHOL as a wife.
Tradition had it that in every season, only a certain age group of young men and women would be qualified to get married. These young men and women must have displayed certain required skills that would be necessary for life, not just in marriage or within the home, but also to fit as team members in the community. And when the marriage season arrived, a huge
celebration would be thrown, and the young men and the young women would come out and they would celebrate. And it is here that the young men would pick whichever woman pleased them the most.
When the season came for DICHOL's age group to get married, they were ready. They dressed in their best outfits and set off towards where the ceremony was to take place. As usual, the girls would leave their homes and travel together to the common place where the ceremony was happening. And as DICHOL and her friends walked, they met an old woman. You are beautiful, pointing to DICHOL. It's definitely the most beautiful of you all. DICHOL just smiled politely. "Thank you, Danny," she said. The other girls were not happy. They were not happy that the old woman had singled out DICHOL to comment on her beauty.
And when they continued with their way, the other girls whispered among themselves. Yes, they conspired and decided to turn DICHOL into a mbero, a cooking stool. Yes, a stool where women sit as they do their cooking. And they carried the stool and continued with their journey.
They soon met two old men having a chat, and the men paused in their speech as they watched the group of girls approaching. And one of the men said, "Our girls, you are so beautiful, and the men who will have you as wives will be very lucky." true, responded the other one. But if that's true, that Mbero was a woman, I bet she would be the most beautiful of the group. The girls' jealousy increased.
And when they walked away from the men, they decided that they were going to turn DICHOL into a kitrego. A grinding stone that is used to grind grains into flour. And they carried the grinding stone and they continued their journey.
They soon came across some younger girls who were grinding flour for the evening meal. And the young girls stopped their work and they came to admire the young women. Maybe imagining that in a few years, they too would be ready for the marriage season. Girls?
How do we look? Oh, see the young girls, you guys look amazing. But then one of the young girls, whose favorite work was to grind flour, said, but if that grinding stone was a woman, I'm sure she'd be the most beautiful in the group.
The girls' annoyance was increasing. And after they continued with their journey for a while, they decided that they would now turn DICHOL into a guata, a calabash, and so they did. They continued with their walk. And they soon came across some women sitting on the roadside selling uji, porridge. And even before the girls could open their eyes, one of the women exclaimed, look at that aguata, that calabash. It is so beautiful. I'm sure if it was a woman, it would be the most beautiful of the group. The other women nodded in agreement.
None of their tricks seemed to be working. Yes, if anything, DICHOL was only being heaped more and more praise.
After a quick consultation, they decided that they would turn DICHOL into Guok, a dog, a skinny, mangy dog with drooping eyes. And so they did. For the rest of the way, no one commented about the dog, and the girls were happy that their trick had worked. The girls walked and finally reached the field where the celebration was to happen. And as usual, a crowd of people were waiting to behold this exciting ceremony.
Jawa Jawa, dingo Jawa Jawa, yo madre yo dogi joli kamatu, dingo Jawa Jawa, yo madre, dingo Jawa Jawa, yo madre yo dogi joli kamatu.
The trip was highly successful, and all the girls found suitors. They celebrated as they went off their separate ways, ready to start new families. When the dust settled, only one sad, skinny dog with drooping eyes was left in the field.
There was one young man who had admired DICHOL for a very long time.
He knew by the way she made his heart almost jump from his chest every time they met that DICHOL was the woman for him. He had actually refused to join his age group in the marriage ceremony the previous season because he knew that DICHOL was not among the young women who were taking part then. This young man was called Obango, and this season he had asked around and he had heard rumors that indeed DICHOL would be among the girls participating. I tell you, Obango had hardly slept the night before, and he had gone to the ceremony specifically
hoping and praying to catch DICHOL's eye, and praying that she would agree to come home with him as his wife. So when he went there, and he did not see DICHOL among the girls participating, he was really disappointed. And immediately, even without waiting for the ceremony to end, he went back home.
When Obango showed up empty-handed, his mother was furious.
Mama dito kata ka okadito donge abulu matulu bi mara mabulu mayudo moro yawo.
To poditi mako angoka nyati ma mofuan. Poditi ma angoka obonyo. Obonyo we koda wiya. Nyati nyi basi ni sani. Mine joti ngontindo e ba mgigi winjo maber. To ano e yidwa mondo tim ato. Edwani mondo bonyo mondo toka pakana no nyigwa nyatene yawa. Edwani mondo to yawa.
The mother was not happy. If Obango did not hurry, he would get a lazy wife or a woman, an ugly woman with bad character, because those ones were the ones who remained after all the good ones had been taken.
At his mother's nagging, Obango went back to the ceremony. When he got there, the ceremony was over, and he was shocked because this time not even one woman was left. All he saw was a skinny dog with drooping eyes. Obango wanted to leave, but something made him have pity on the dog, and he decided to take it home with him. Who knows? It could make itself useful guarding the homestead when he and his mother were away. Or at least, it could scare away the squirrels who loved to dig up newly planted seeds. Of course, as you can imagine, his mother was not impressed. She scolded him about missing his chance for finding a wife. At this rate, she said, Obango would never get married, and she would become the laughingstock among her age mates. Soon the day was over, and the next day, early in the morning, as was their custom, Obango and her mother set off to the shamba to work. They left the skinny dog behind, lying in the compound. When Obango and his mother came back, they were shocked. They found that the compound had been swept and that the big pot was full of water. Which well-wisher had done this kind deed? Obango's mother wondered. The next day, when they came back from the farm, they found clean clothes hanging from the washing line and a pot of nyoyo boiling in the kitchen. The work had been done so well. And when they asked their neighbors, none of them knew who had done the work. Well, this trend continued for a number of days. And when Obango and his mother couldn't figure out who was helping them with the housework, they decided to set a trap. Obango pretended that he had left for the farm, but instead he stayed behind and hid behind a bush to watch if anyone would come to the home. He watched for quite a while, but nothing was happening, and he was just about to give up when he noticed that his often quiet dog was moving about in the compound, looking this side and that side. Then he was shocked when he saw the dog twist this way and that way until its skin came off.
And from under the skin came up a beautiful, beautiful girl. It was DICHOL.
His mouth opened. He watched her as she went about working in the compound. And as she worked, she sang.
Pindi ariwa DICHOL pindumburu pindi ariwa.
finishing all the work. Obango saw Dichol go back, pick the dog's skin, put it on, and lay down under the shade of a tree. Obango could not believe it. He remembered all the stories he had heard. Well, people had just assumed that Dichol had simply disappeared. And yet, all this time, the girl that he loved was in his own compound. He did not want to scare her. So, he crept away and went to the farm and told his parents what he had seen.
When they came back home at the usual time, the house was clean, the utensils had been washed, the food had been cooked, and the dog was sleeping in the compound.
The next day, Obango and his parents left at the usual time, but they did not go to the farm.
Instead, they went and called their neighbors, and they all hid in strategic positions, waiting to see what would unfold. And as usual, the dog waited for a while, then walked around the compound, checking this side and that side to make sure no one was around. And out appeared the beautiful Dichol. You see, the charms that her fake friends had used on her had begun losing strength, and they all watched in amazement as Dichol began walking, singing to herself. This time round, Obango did not wait for Dichol to go back into the dog's skin. No, he rushed, catching her unawares, and picked the dog's skin. His mother and the neighbors also rushed from their hiding places with ululations. Dichol was shocked, and she wanted to hide again in her skin.
Seeing the joy in everyone's faces, she broke down and sobbed and told them about the events of that fateful day. Well, my dear friends, that is how Obango ended up marrying the most beautiful girl in the village. And they lived together happily for many, many years.
Nyago kela lo maro, nyago wela lo maro, nyago na lo maro, 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 alo maro, alo maro, alo maro, alo maro. Nyago kela lo maro, nyago na lo maro, nyago wina lo maro, nyago chienga lo maro, 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 alo maro, alo maro, alo maro, nyago nyanga lo maro, nyago na lo